Right, people, hello, welcome to the second episode of the Anomalous pod. I'm back here again with my good mate Oscar. Oscar, how are you doing today?
I'm excellent.
That's good to hear.
Splendid.
That's good to hear. People, we hope you're excellent as well. Feel free to put us on while you are walking the dog, doing the dishes, doing the laundry, whatever, commuting to work, school. We don't care. You can enjoy our work. And without further ado, I think we should get into this today, don't you?
I suppose so, yeah, let's do it.
Yeah. So yeah, people, today we are talking about what I would think is the thing that differentiates us from a lot of people and makes us anomalies, which is a sort of mindset towards life that I would say is a big deciding factor in why we are who we are. And the way we word it is exiting the matrix. And people will get that or they won't because it's to do with a film that came out in the 1990s, which we've both watched. I think, Oscar, when did you
We
watch it
have.
the
We,
first
we
time?
watched it, we watched it New Year's,
Oh yeah! Oh my God! At the end
but
of two.
I'd watched it quite a bit before then. But like it made more sense when I watched it New Year's than it
Yeah,
did when I watched it before.
I think I watched it on my own earlier that year, and then watched it with you again that New Year's. Yes, but for those who haven't seen it, one, you should because it's a classic. It's one
It
of those
is.
where like people will reference it a lot. Um, and it's good. It's a decent little film. And basically, the premise is, without too many spoilers, is that people's minds, normal people going out day to day in society, are actually controlled. They're mind controlled by a sort of like alien robot species that uses humans to sort of power their robotic like alien bodies kind of thing. That sounds really weird, but that's sort of
Yeah,
the
it's
premise is, yeah, that people are being controlled by another species of alien robot things, and they don't really realize they're being controlled because they're just living out their lives. And I think the way I apply that to actual life is I know that we're not being controlled by alien robots, although
that's good.
who knows at the end of the day.
Yeah, yeah.
But I think you'd agree with me that a lot of people have a sort of trapped mind, whether it's certain thought patterns, certain behavior patterns, ideas they have about themselves and the world. They can get stuck.
Absolutely.
And I think we both had an experience in 2020 where we sort of realized we were stuck in certain thought patterns, behavior patterns, and broke out of them. Am I right in saying that?
Definitely, yeah, for sure. I mean, in a way, the kind of like the lockdowns and having a lot more time to myself made me realise a couple, I guess, yeah, a couple realizations of just sort of like how I was thinking, my goals, and just you know
Mm,
what was making me feel unhappy. A
mm.
lot of it was just what I consumed. Like looking on my phone, whether it was Instagram, Snapchat, all these things I was looking at, and
Yeah,
it all added up basically.
so, and also, I think one big thing is the first thing I've got on my notes here on how we start to be controlled our minds, right, with the thoughts about who we are in the world and stuff, is actually to do with education, the education system
Mm,
we have nowadays. Like, yes, it's good in one certain respect, but obviously, you stopped going to normal school. How old are you? 15, 14? And
um, no, a bit older. It was the start of year 11, so I think I would have been 16.
so
I
yeah,
think.
you sort of left that process at that time, and obviously I did as well during the lockdown, and then afterwards, my year 11, I didn't go for a good few months, and I think actually escaping that was a good factor that led me to realize certain things about life.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, that obviously when I left school, it happened a lot further back, so I was still sort of stuck in certain thought, like unhealthy thought patterns and whatnot, and still, you know, burying my life into social media and all that kind of stuff. But it was definitely an eye opener leaving secondary school, and I never got along well with exams and stuff like that. I pretty much left after my mocks. I just thought it was a load of rubbish, really, what I was doing. Like,
Mm, mm. I think I agree with you. I mean, it's interesting because we're different in the way that I've stayed in the system and still am, yeah, in sixth form at the moment. but I still agree with you on many things. I think a lot of the stuff that I do is not as helpful as it could be in terms of the whole of my life.
Yeah,
Uh,
definitely.
if all the experience was learning the things that we do, I don't know if I'd think it's worth it. For me, it's the whole experience. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%.
But before we go on into sort of like that realm of how these things happen and how we can potentially solve this, I think we should like go into what we mean by a trap mind, or the few things that I thought that I think a lot of people experience in life that is sort of unnecessary and given to us, like conditioned to us by certain things in our life. Is number one, I don't think we are taught properly or told properly through things like the media and education and all these things
Absolutely.
how to look after our health is
Yeah,
the big one. Um, our our mental health. I think so many people are more sad than they could be.
definitely.
I think we are.
Especially, sorry to interrupt,
It's
but
like,
especially among our kind of generation and age group,
mm-hmm,
it's
mm-hmm.
it's quite scary the amount of people our age that are really struggling in deep inside themselves in
It's weird,
terms
isn't it?
of what they want to do or whatever it may be.
Because I think actually, if you're happy, like maybe not like the sort of just like contentness kind of happy, but if you're genuinely like joyful and express that publicly,
Yeah,
you are an outcast. Like
yeah,
that's not the norm. The basic like status quo is grumpy, isn't it? Really.
definitely. And you even see that in like in sort of like I guess memes and things that like relatable stuff that you follow type thing. It's always if you're consuming this stuff and you're looking at like I don't know a meme for example and it's saying like I don't know something about um being depressed or anxious and so and you relate to it but
Mm.
it doesn't open your mind to come out of that if you know what I mean. It keeps you in that cycle.
It's almost cool to be sad nowadays.
That's it, yeah.
I'm not taking away from the people that are like, seriously clinically depressed and have like circumstances that cause that. I'm talking about the average person whose life is pretty decent. It's sort of expected of you to be negative most of the time
Yeah,
by how the world is conditioning us in certain things. So that's the sadness. The other two I just want to say is I also think the way the world works is not great for the amount of fear we have. I feel like everyone's in a state of fear a lot more than they need to be about.
definitely, yeah.
And lastly, the way the world works, I think, makes people desire things that they don't really want, like material things, like competing against other people, thinking you're
Yeah,
worse than another person, those kind of things. So they're the four for me that I would say is like health, sadness, like being afraid and desiring. They're like the four things that are conditioning us, conditioning our minds through like how the world works in the modern day. Would you kind of agree?
I would, yeah, definitely. I mean, like, I think health is obviously the huge one
Mm.
because like lots of people don't take things like supplements and stuff like that because again, they're not really fully taught about. You see it
Right.
in all sort of ends in terms of just general health, whether it's general health or like you see it with gym stuff as well. You see like on social media some gym people pretending to be natural and saying take this supplement and it
Hmm.
will make you look like me. It's all these little things that would influence, I guess.
I think the sad thing is like, yeah, I would agree. If we start with the health thing, it's like throughout all the schooling that I've had, everything that I've learned to actually be healthy, like mentally, physically, emotionally, I have not found from that. You have to look outside.
Definitely, yeah. And I mean
Uh,
a lot of the sort of things you learn in school about health, like I couldn't even name anything really. It's just the standard like take I don't know take a paracetamol if you're
yeah,
ill.
and even then, that's the best thing you can do anyway. And,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
so they tell us, yeah, exercise is good, but don't elaborate on why, and don't give you a sort of personal reason why you should. And to
Yeah,
be honest with you, the majority of the things teacher says, most of the kids aren't going to take any notice anyway because they've just got used to hearing what the teacher says and taking absolutely no
that's
notice.
it. And all it is that the teachers learnt from another teacher, and that teacher's learnt both those teachers also learnt from probably the same book, and
Yeah.
then the same thing. It all just goes all the way back, and there's no there's no expanding on that. It's just, this is what the book says,
Mm.
and I'm just going to teach that.
It's weird. It's like there's no. I don't know whether it's different in other countries, but the ones that I know of, there's no sort of real system to get people to have like skills for actual life, like happiness, health, not being afraid of things, not desiring
Mm,
what you don't want, like just being genuinely in a balanced place. And I think that's a reason a lot of people can get trapped in unhealthy thought patterns and behavior patterns because of the fact there is nothing out there, you know?
that's it, yeah. And I mean, a lot of people that I know of that never even um, never even went to school in the first place, like, proper homeschool.
Mm,
I know of a few people, and they're probably the happiest people I know, and
mm,
they're living their sort of life with no sort of fear of having a teacher looming over them and having to go to class and then sitting there for an hour and a half and just thinking, why am I here? Why do I bother? There's none of that at all.
mm,
It's all, one person I know of, she goes to sort of forest school and stuff like that, and learn that kind of stuff of like how to survive in the wild and that kind of thing, which I think is a lot more important.
mm. We're so disconnected from nature at the end of the day. Like we're animals, really. I mean, yeah, we're slightly smarter and we have a big brain and a consciousness and all this, but at the end of the day, we're animals, and is it right that the schoolboy has to put on the shirt and tie and go and sit in the room, or you know
Oh,
the
yeah,
adult has to wear corporate clothes and sit in an office and answer emails? It's like
yeah,
it's weird that we've got to this point, you know.
definitely, definitely.
I
It's
think
just
a lot of it
there's
comes
sorry.
from money. Money's the issue. Is like obviously if we didn't have money, there'd be a lot more problems. But I think that's the reason we've got so suit and tie rather than being an animal, you know. And I guess that just comes with the expansion of our species, isn't it? But what are you gonna say?
Yeah. I was just gonna say, this reminded me of a lot of moments in school that I very much disliked. It's just a lot of memories are coming up of just sitting in class in a horrible school uniform, and it's just like, ugh,
Mm,
ugh.
yeah, that's the thing. That's why I think the first point that I put for why we get caught in this matrix type life, where we think like what we want is not actually what we want, is
Mm,
from those first experiences, and because society and other people, it's just so normal to just follow the crowd and be like, well, this is what we do.
that's it. Yeah, and like,
It's okay.
yeah, your parents have done it, and your parents before them, and parents before them. It's just it's just recycling the same stuff over and over again.
And not just people we know. I think also because the modern day, the amount of media we're exposed to,
Mm,
it's very easy to feel like you want to follow just the people that you see in
that's
various
it.
parts,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know.
definitely.
And the media, that's why, like, also that also as well, like, yeah, like the media in terms of making people healthy and happy and not scared and not desiring things, it does the complete opposite. Like as soon as I realized that pretty much everything revolves around money and trying to sell us things,
Yeah,
when you actually, watch TV adverts or listen to adverts on the radio or see whatever pops up on your phone or whatever you're on, you actually think like they're just seeing me as a consumer here and not as an actual,
that's it. Absolutely.
you know.
I mean, like, just for example, talking of media and like, you know, like news and stuff like that. Like, you get the odd happy news story, but at the end of the day, the first thing you see is that dramatic dun dun, or like there's always this dramatic intro, and then it's like breaking news.
Yeah,
We're all screwed. Why are we here? And
that would
again,
be like
like,
if you're going to translate human news stories to an alien species, that's what you'd say.
yeah, that is.
We're all going to die.
Yeah,
This awful things happened. Everyone needs to be scared.
that's it. And like, again, it almost becomes a hook, and then you've got evening news, you've got news all day, and you also got morning news, and then people will sit there, recycle it over and over again, and it almost becomes like, you hear that music, the heart starts pumping, you're like, oh, what's happening? And then it's like, oh, sadness, and then it's
Yeah.
just again the cycle again the next day, and then
And the sad thing is people think that like they need to do that. Like when
yeah,
I think it's interesting because whenever I mention to people that I haven't really watched standard news for years, they're like, hey, how do you do that? How do you survive not knowing what's going on in the world? And it's like, well, if it was genuinely important enough to affect me, I would find out.
that's it exactly.
Like the majority, I think that's the thing when we've experienced things like me and you have of coming off social media for points of time and not watching the news and getting out of the school environment for points of time, is that you realize that a lot of the stuff that's fed to us that we think we need is actually futile, and we can live without it quite happily and probably happier.
Way happier, definitely. I'm a strong believer of that. That a lot of things that are fed to us, we just solely there to just put you in a bad mood or make you keep getting the vibes low, basically.
That's the thing, isn't it? Because when the vibe's low and you're sad, you're scared, you're desiring certain things, then an advert can pop up and get across an idea that their product will save all of
Mm,
it for you, and then that's when people mindlessly consume. That's
that's
why
it.
that's the reason. If there is a reason for all of this, of like people might be thinking, well, why does the world work this way? It's so horrible. I think the underlying thing that's easy to digest is, well, it makes more money. Because
Hmm.
if everyone was happy and everyone sort of understood what they wanted, understood how life would be in the best case scenario, then we wouldn't need to buy all the things that we do. We wouldn't need to do certain things. We wouldn't need to follow
Hmm.
the crowd. Like I really do think if everyone was happy and not scared and healthy, then we wouldn't have the majority of the issues that we do. There would still be things that happen that are not ideal, but the majority of them would not be there.
Very much so. Yeah, definitely.
So the question is then, like, how do people do what we've done and escape that? You know, like exit
Um,
and sort of free your mind kind of thing. I
it's
think
it's it's a hard question, isn't it? Really, because it kind of just for me the stars aligned, and it just like it just made sense to you know go against that and try and make myself feel happier to come off those things. But I think just one of the main things is just like, let's say you are like looking at a lot of Instagram, a lot of negative things, lots of news, just to be mindful of what you're consuming. I suppose is one of the main things, because like that was kind of the first phase for me, was just sort of going, I'm on here, I'm scrolling through Instagram, I know I'm scrolling through Instagram, and then being mindful of your screen time, like by the end of the day, 7, 8 hours in, you
mm,
know, 5.5 hours spent on Instagram, like at least you can then sort of go, wow, that actually just happened, and then you can try and in your mind you can then see that it's there, and not so much accept it, but know that you can try and change it.
I think you're right. I think a lot of positive change in life starts with awareness,
Yeah.
because that's the thing. The people that are doing the things that aren't like healthy for them and aren't good for their mental health, they don't realize they're doing it a lot of the time. I think it's
Mm,
very unconscious,
definitely.
and
Definitely.
awareness recognition is the first step. And from that point, it's difficult because people might have an intention of, like, they might hear what we're saying now and think that's right. Like, I don't feel good when I've just been exposed myself to negativity that was unnecessary, or I've
Mm,
bought a thing that I know I don't really need. They'll know that they didn't feel good, but they won't know what to do next, and they'll struggle to it's so easy to be like, well, that's just how it works, that's how life is.
yeah.
But I think it's persistence to the process,
Yeah.
and trusting that you're making the right choices, and you'll stand out, I reckon, because I felt it, and I guess you felt it as well.
Definitely. Yeah.
Like when I'm there in school and I'm the only kid at lunchtime that's eating any vegetables, The guy that brings the salad in every day on a small scale, but
And the response is usually, "What on earth is that?
yeah,
What are you eating?"
one of my mates says my lunch is hamster food. Like, well, it's good. If it's good enough for a hamster, it's good enough for me.
Oh
So, yeah.
dear.
So I think that's the key thing is getting over like looking different in front
I
of other
think that was the big hurdle for me. Definitely, is just getting over the because at the end of the day, nobody really gives a shit.
people.
Like nobody actually cares. You think you like. I used to think like going into anywhere. I don't know. Let's say going into class like secondary school. I used to go in and just sort of worry about how I was looking, or whether I was making
Hmm.
people laugh. Like nobody. Like at the end of the day, nobody cares, and I
Hmm.
think that's the first thing you've got to get over to then kind of make yourself better.
I think
Essentially,
that's a big part of the matrix as well. Is comparing yourself to other people, thinking you are different to others, and that
yeah,
because I think you'd agree that it's very easy if you're not aware of it to go about your life and have the sort of difficulties that we all have internally and think, well, this is just me feeling this,
yeah,
and but the reality is that everyone worries about what other people think of them. Everyone has days where they don't feel good. Everyone at times thinks like, what the hell am I doing in my life? Like,
yeah,
yeah, I think you're right. It's hard. People. That's one thing I think has been clear to me more and more as time goes by is that no one does care. Like
yeah.
especially when I started making videos and stuff. I'm 3 months in whatever now, and it's just so normal. And I've realised, yeah, no one cares.
For
It's just
like the main thing about that as well, it's how you react to it. If you're going in like, oh, I want to make a YouTube channel, and
mm,
then then people are talking about it or taking the mick a little bit, and then it's making you feel worse. If you own it, you just go out there and you go, yeah, I'm doing this, or it could be anything like, yeah, you know what, I do want to do music and I do want to try and I don't know, perform in front of people or something. You just
mm.
own it.
I think you're right, and I think people can apply that to their own, you know, methods of exiting the matrix. If they want
Again,
to
yeah, definitely.
start looking after their health or start, improving their mental health through doing certain things or avoiding certain media outlets and stuff, and people, ridicule them in a certain way, they can just be like, well, that's what I'm doing. I'm,
Yeah,
I'm I'm making a choice to be happier. I'm making a choice to get away from all this negativity, and that's just the way it is. I think you're right. I think you've got to have conviction in your decisions. Otherwise,
definitely.
it's so easy to be pulled in by what's normal.
Yeah, 100%. And the thing is, as well, like I found a lot of stuttering English. Sorry.
Right?
I found when I came off sort of social media, and nothing was really going on in terms of like what I was doing pre-lockdown in terms of going to GB camps and
Mm,
doing lots and lots of wheelchair basketball and seeing lots and lots of people every month. You know, you find that once you change, you may lose contact with some people. That might be a worry as well.
mm,
But once you're happy, you tend not to care about that, and then the right people will always like my friendship group at the moment is like very very small. I've got a very close knit group of people that I talk to, like yourself.
yeah.
I've got a couple mates from Totnes, but apart from that, I don't really have that many people. It's such a small amount of people, but I'm very happy with that.
I would agree. I think real friends are hard to come by. Firstly,
Yeah,
and I think it doesn't really matter the quantity of them. I think I'd much rather have people that are on the same wavelength as me and a very small amount of them than loads of people where the friendship is very superficial. They
yeah,
are thinking I'm a certain way that's not actually who I am. It's not a good way to have a friendship. It's not a good way to interact with another person because it's all not real.
yeah, definitely. No,
And
that's
I think that's another thing that people go through is like when they're stuck in certain thought patterns or certain behavior patterns because of the way the world is. they're actually living lives that are not their own. And
Yeah,
maybe what we came to in 2020 when we did change is that we sort of were confronted with who we actually were.
yeah,
And then there was a choice
definitely.
of like, do we follow this or do we sort of put it away and try not to worry? You know,
Yeah, that was
that
very well put.
no, I think through talking about it, I've processed it more and thought, yeah, maybe that's the case because I think you'd agree that when I look back on who I was before I started changing and not look after my health and stuff back in the day, I was a different person. But I'm the same
Definitely,
type.
I would
If
definitely agree with that though, for sure.
it's weird that
Like the big like for yourself, the difference from when I first met you to now is just like which it's obvious because that's life in general anyway. Like whether you started looking after yourself or not, you're always gonna have a big change. But like from what I remember of you, it was like Mackey's after training. Uh, what else? What else? It was just like I don't know, just like a proper lad, like a proper
thinking
I
he
don't
was.
know. That's it. Yeah, exactly. And now that's just like not gone's the wrong word because that's always
Oh,
going to be a part of anyone's personality, but it's
yeah.
just developed into
Mm.
something that's quite great.
When I think about it, like a lot of my friends used to say back in the day that I had a massive ego, and like, why didn't I take that as a joy? You should sort yourself out a little bit. I don't know, but it became a thing, and that was one of the big things I decided is like I wanted to just not be so much of a like I did everything that I did was sort of for my own personal gain back in the day, and I think that's another thing
Yeah,
is people can be very self focused.
definitely. And I think that's the case with like um, whenever you're in your mind, if you're constantly thinking about how you're looking and how obviously the worry's there, but in a way that's ego, not in the way of like I'm better than you, but if you're constantly got the sort of God, I'm feeling awful, I'm this, I'm that, I've got this on my face, I don't feel like I'm dressed well, and the word I always comes in
Yeah.
full circle when you're
Mm.
talking about yourself and your brain. It's very unhealthy.
Yeah, I think that's another thing that the media and education and whatever tells us is that we are separate individuals leading lives where we're pretty much on our own for the whole time, and other people would just not even like us at all, really. And I think
Yeah,
that's a big realization is that really there's nothing different between you and the next guy. Like it sounds funny, but I was like meditating one time and I came to the realization that when you're with another person, like you're literally just you in your own meat vehicle, and then there's a bit of space, and then there's a meat vehicle, and there's them. That is literally the difference. Like the difference is nothing. We're all the same person.
yeah,
We are one thing, isn't it? Really, and you could go very woo woo there and say that's just the oneness of the human species or the universe, or whatever. But yeah, I think thinking too much like an individual is what actually makes a lot of people unhappy because I think as soon as you do something for someone else, it makes you feel better. I mean, people I think
yeah.
know innately.
And in a way that someone else, that might not even be like a person. That someone else could be like the the difference between mental and physical. You might not be doing well physically. You might have a bad diet, whatever. You might not exercise enough. But then if you help yourself, if you help your physical side, you start to
Hmm.
feel better,
Mm.
and then mentally you start to feel better, and then it's like, oh wow, this feels amazing, I'm going to carry on doing it, and you just keep doing it and doing it and doing it, just like as if you're going to help someone, you're going to help someone again and again and again, and it just becomes a positive cycle instead of a negative of like, oh,
Mm.
I'm this, I'm that, you know.
I think you just sparked an idea in my mind there of like that is how you exit the negative sort of matrix mindset that we're most of us are given from the beginning in life is you just start doing positive things. You
Yeah,
prioritize positivity in all aspects. The way you interact with people, the way you approach the world, the way you approach yourself, and then what you referred to there is like a snowball effect
mm.
of all things over and over and over because it's not an overnight thing. Like you saying that I've changed so much since you knew me, there was no way that was an overnight thing at all. In fact, it was a difficult process of a lot of like
Yeah.
unpleasant days and unpleasant thoughts and unpleasant experiences.
Oh, definitely, and I'd say the same for me. And I think from your perspective on how I've changed, I don't know. I don't know. What would you say it's minimal? Would you say it's like
Well, I think when we reconnected after a while in 2020, I think it was November or something, we started talking again, and I hadn't spoken to you properly since the sort of January, February, March that year,
yeah,
and we weren't very close. We were teammates, but we weren't really even in the same team anyway because I was in the second team, you were in the first team, kind of thing.
yeah,
But I definitely knew there was a different vibe there. But then I've also
yeah,
seen your progression from that point over the last year and a half.
yeah,
Because we spoke to each other pretty much every day on quite a deep level. I think we both saw progressions in each other.
yeah,
So I
definitely.
there is even the Joel and the Oscar a year ago is not the same as the Joel and Oscar that are talking to each other now. I think that's the beautiful thing about life is you never completely change. You're never one thing all the time. We're all
Yeah,
constantly changing, and
yeah, definitely.
people have got to understand is that life's not fixed. Life's not a go to school, get a job, make this amount of money, the rest of your life, retire kind of thing. It's constantly changing. Like people, you can't expect life to be a certain way because it's going to change. That the only thing we know for sure is that things are going to change. That's the way I like to think about it.
Yeah, definitely.
And
100%.
you never know where you're going to be. And I think that is another thing on the point of like the Matrix making everyone afraid is that you actually have to let go in a way and
Yeah.
not be afraid of the future, not be afraid of dying, of illness or
Just like
whatever.
anything I'll use a big example. I think for people our age, like I think the kind of gym culture and the exercise culture is kind of on the up, which is a really good thing. But I
Mm.
think what's kind of stopping it from skyrocketing is what people think they'll look like in the gym.
Hmm.
What what people, again, it's coming back to what other people think.
Mm.
You know.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with you. It is that it's the fear, and it's I think what the solution is living in the present moment, and it's interesting because a lot of religions and theories, especially well, it's more prevalent in the East, not so much in modern Western culture like us. Is that like really the only thing you can control is today, how you feel right now, and don't think about what other people are doing, what the future's going to be. Just take the next step right now and take the positive step that you can.
Yeah.
That's the thing, and I think when you stop being afraid, and that's the thing, when you stop being afraid, you're happier, you're healthier, and then the snowball effect begins.
Yeah.
In fact, the whole context of life changes and things you used to do now. It's like before, like you said, I used to eat badly and want to be really really popular and things like this, but now I have different priorities because my
Yeah.
mind is in a different space, and I've sort of broken out of the conditions from the world of what they wanted me to want, and I
Yeah.
want things now, and that's so nice.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
that's, again, you put that very well. Yeah.
But like I said, it takes a long, long time.
Very
It's,
long time.
but I think what we should do is give people a sort of set of things that they can start thinking about if what we're saying is resonating, and they no longer want to be sort of unhealthy or sad or afraid or desiring things that they don't really need. So I
Yeah.
think the first point is be aware of what they consume, but what do we really mean by that? You know?
Yeah. Okay. Well, like, I think one thing we're consuming as well. It's not so much of how much you consume, because what you can do instead of consuming, you know, I don't know, like whatever you may watch on YouTube or like whatever you scroll through on Instagram, follow some, I don't know, like some people that promote positive thinking and positive health. Like,
Hmm.
I think a big staple figure in our kind of development is, people like Wim Hof,
Yes.
David Goggins,
Ah.
and who else? There you got like Cole Hastings. You just got these like really positive people
Mm.
that you can sort of just balance out what you're watching, instead of just watching things that I don't know. It's good to watch things that make you laugh. That's what I watch a lot of YouTube on. Lots of funny things. But if you balance that out with
Hmm.
some positive thinking, like other, like I don't know, just like
Well, I think, yeah, I
David. Sorry,
agree.
go on.
I think what people can do is they can find their own version of that. Like, I think we know once we've consumed something, whether it's a bit of food or it's a bit of information, or we've done something to a certain person, we know when it wasn't good.
Yeah,
As much as we can try and ignore that feeling of guilt or regret or whatever, we know it wasn't good for us. And I think people can do their own they can be their own guinea pig. They can do their own surveys on themselves and think, well, I just did that. How did I feel? If the answer's not great, then try and avoid that in the future very slightly. It can be
yeah,
incremental. But I think my big tip would be, yeah, be aware of what you're doing in terms of your social media use and your watching of general media like television and stuff like that. And I think a big one is just stop watching the news as
yeah.
like, you know what I mean? You don't have to know every day. I think the truth is that if something's important enough, it'll find you.
That's it. I think like you say as much. To be completely transparent with people, I would just cut it out completely.
I would agree. I would agree.
Because
I just yeah.
to be honest as well, like with certain people I might intermingle with in just life in general, they'll end up telling me what's happening anyway, and I'll just go, oh,
Hmm.
okay.
Yeah, you don't need. It's unnecessary. It's just
Yeah,
basically just try and drain all the unnecessary negativity in your life, and that goes for media, that goes for people, that goes for the things you eat, you drink, you do. Is filtering out the bad stuff, and
yeah,
then you're left with sort of space that you can fill with good things, and that's not
definitely.
necessarily easy. That's not necessarily easy. It's simple, but it by no means is easy.
I think one thing that should be mentioned as well is that like we're talking about all these positive things and what to do. I'd say for myself more so, but we don't always
I agree
live as
completely.
well as we're like putting forward, and that's just the ebbs and flow of life. Like I have days where I don't do anything, and I get to the end of it, I'll chat to whoever, Joel, my parents. I just say I feel awful, and it's
Mm.
because I've just sort of festered and just
Mm.
drifted. You
And
know,
but I agree, it's all a learning experience. Like no one's perfect. Like the people that we've said that inspire us in this kind of thought, this the same. I bet they're not brilliant every day. It's not it's not a like I said earlier. It's not an overnight switch. It's a
yeah,
lifestyle, and it ebbs and flows like everything in life.
yeah.
I think the most important thing is attention to what you're doing and an intention.
Again, just that's it. That's sorry, but that again, it's just being aware. Like we said that a lot, but it's just being aware that you've just sat there, and instead of going, "Why am I unhappy?" it's just sort of going, "I've not gone out today," or I've not exercised today when I said I would. It's being aware instead of going, "Why am I?" It's like, I guess how can I how can
Mm,
I improve?
it's thinking deeply. It's all about because everything happens through your own mind, really. So I think as soon as you have the mindset and you're aware of your thinking, I think that's where it happens. When you recognize certain thought patterns as not good, and actually challenging them.
Yeah,
You like I said to you the other night, the biggest difference between me before and me now is I'm aware of my thoughts. I'm not just thinking them,
yeah,
and that is the biggest thing. I think that is when you exit the matrix. I would say that is the fundamental. Is you're not just thinking and being led by the things that you see and the things that you consume.
yeah,
There's a version of yourself or another version of you inside that is watching over your own thoughts.
definitely.
If people can work on that through various things, like, yeah, meditation's obviously the easiest way, but you can just do it by reminding yourself
Yeah,
to, to be aware of what you're thinking. That's the start. That can be the catalyst to everything.
definitely.
And in a way, changing the thoughts that you might have automatically that aren't actually yours. Like if you see yourself in a certain light or see, a certain situation or a certain person in a certain way, questioning yourself and being like, is that actually what I think, or where have I got that idea from?
That's it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That where's this come from? Where is this? Yeah, where's this thought? Like, is it something that I saw, or is it actually like organic? You know what I mean?
And we're always saying to each other, is that just a self-limiting belief?
Yeah, yeah. There's a lot of that. Like, I guess I'll use the example that is probably what we were talking about at the time. Is like, I've played guitar since I was about 9 years old, and I've never really pushed it
Mm,
far. And I'm
mm,
thinking about going to college
yeah.
and doing music stuff, and I am shitting it,
Mm,
and I think I'm going to be bad, and then that's usually the response I get. Is that just a
mm.
self-limiting belief? And it 100% is.
Because we can unpick that and be like, well, where does that thought come from? Is it
Yeah,
because from experiences past where people have judged you and you haven't liked it? Is it like
mm,
self-limiting thoughts of like you got that from just like ideas about you, or from media or whatever, looking at people that can do music really well and thinking I could never be compared to that kind of person. It's
yeah.
our thoughts are not really our own in a lot of ways.
Again, yeah, that's it's about what other people are doing and what other people are thinking. That's again what it comes back to every single
Mm,
time.
mm. I think another so when you recognize, so firstly it's like be aware of what you're consuming in terms of that can be health as well, that can be like the food and drink, the media, the information, the people that you're around, because toxic people is a big part of it. So it's being aware, it's recognizing that where the thoughts are coming from, where the feelings are coming from, and having the intention to change it. And what I would also add on to the end of that is then you've got to let go of the things that the things that are holding you still into the matrix, which I think are your fears and your desires to fears in the way of death, of the future not being as good, or fears that you're not going to be who you want to be, things like this, and
Yeah,
desiring thinking that getting certain material possessions will make you happy, or desiring a certain amount of money, or a certain person, or a certain anything, just desiring things from life, when really when you let go of that, that's when you are really free.
yeah, absolutely.
Because another thing that makes us stand out in a lot of ways is that we're not scared of death. Obviously, I don't want to die, but
Yeah, no, yeah, no, like it's hard to phrase that to people because like a lot of people go, "Oh, really?" Or
mm,
it's just again, it's just like not not being fearful of things that like media and I don't
mm,
know want you to be feared by. It's just like, oh, if I were to die, tomorrow or in a couple of minutes, it's
it's all right, man. Yeah, it's not the
it's
end of
got to
the world.
happen. Yeah,
That's the thing, and I think obviously I've got certain beliefs that mean that I'm a bit more relaxed about dying.
yeah,
Like for
definitely.
people to take home, no matter what your beliefs are, the fact that you're here right now is ridiculous. Anyway, you
Yeah,
know, you're here in this moment. The probability that this is actually happening is insane.
yeah,
So if you were to die, you just got to be grateful for what's going on now. I think when you relax and are no longer scared of other people or death or whatever, life becomes a lot more beautiful. It becomes like a play. It becomes like a game. I think that's
yeah,
the best state to be in. Like, not. I mean, I'm obviously a bad example because if a lot of people saw how hard I work towards certain things, they think this guy takes life way too seriously. But but I think that's a good thing, is to not take life that seriously.
yeah,
You know, and
definitely.
that's like you said earlier. We're not perfect in the way that I maybe do take life too seriously, and maybe it's something I've got to think about.
Yeah, 100%,
And
100%.
yeah, I think it's true. I think just when you can sort of step back, let go, see life as a sort of game and an enjoyable experience. That's when you're out of the trap, your
Yeah,
mind's trap. You know.
yeah,
So I think we should finish up by both of us saying, like, what's the biggest sort of benefits that you've gained from having this freer mind away from certain fears and desires most of the time. What
ooh,
would you?
that's a very good question. Um,
I don't mind answering first if you need a moment to think.
Um, I don't know. I think a lot of. I think one of the main things is just my overall calmness.
Mm,
Like just calmness in a lot of situations where in the past I would have just been like really really anxious. Like I was an incredibly anxious sort of from about 12 to 16. I was a very very anxious person,
mm,
like probably partly due to things I'd experienced with like disability and doctors and all that kind of thing,
mm,
but a lot of it came down to school.
mm-hmm.
I think that's the big difference for me. Is just like if something came up that I had to do, that I wouldn't be worried about it anymore. It'd just be like, right, let's just get it done.
So
There
true.
still the thing is there still would be that worry, but it's again it's just about owning it and doing it.
You're aware of it, you recognise it, and you can sort of rationalise it easier. That's one thing that's so true. You are a very calm individual. I do
Thank you.
agree. No, it's true. You've just got a presence where it's just like you're very relaxed about things, but not like to the point where you're like don't give a shit, but to the point where you're just more chill about things. You don't let things get to you as
Yeah,
much as people would, and I think that's so valuable. I think peace is really what people want, because
100%. Yeah,
like, happiness and joy and all of this fades. No one can be happy all the time,
yeah,
but I think you can be peaceful all the time. Because I think bad things can happen, and maybe you're not happy, but you can still be at peace with it.
yeah,
You can accept it.
yeah.
So I think you're right. Calmness is a skill at the end of the day.
It really is. Yeah, 100%.
You know? But for me personally, I think the big one for me is being able to live the life that I actually want to, or
Okay.
as I think that I want to anyway. Because back in the day, I was living, and maybe yes, I was enjoying myself in the moment. But when I look back, I wasn't actually living how I'd really want to. And nowadays, now I'm recognizing my thoughts and how I feel and how the world influences me. I can direct my life in a certain direction. It might be different from everyone else, but it's mine.
Yeah,
And I feel like my potential to have a spectacular life has increased so much because I have exited certain negative thought patterns that the world gives the majority of people.
yeah, 100%. Yeah, that's a big one for sure. I
I
think
think,
that's something that everyone who goes through this process would feel
mm,
for
mm,
sure.
I think it's something we both share. Is that even though our paths through life are different, I think we both share a trust that we're still going to have a pretty good time no matter what
So
we do.
exactly, like something like like anything could happen. Instead of like I'm going to do this
Mm,
and that's that. It's a go with the flow kind of
mm.
attitude, and with positive thinking and manifesting the right things, something will happen that will be good and will make us happy at the end of the day.
Well, that's why I preach. Like, it's more important how you do something, not what you do.
Yeah,
Because really, I've realised that you can get fulfillment, you can get happiness, you can get all the good things in life, pretty much doing anything.
yeah,
How your mindset towards it, how you approach it, not wishing it was a different way, desiring it to be a different way.
yeah,
Realising that really, life itself is a gift. It's mad that we're even here, and that we have the capability to be alive and experience reality itself, and that's the underlying, that's the gift of everything in it, that we're able to have this, the fact that we're having this conversation right now,
yeah,
the fact that we're in homes, wearing clothes, we're warm, we're not starving from food. It's like they're the things really where people can forget they're there, but it's like if you got that, if you got your health, you got some stuff to do, and you got people that you love, like you're chilling. That's sick,
yeah,
you know. So
yeah,
that's a big takeaway I want people to take, is like your potential is definitely not the main, like, the way that you've thought it is.
yeah. Because potential. A lot of people just think potential is just like I don't know, like again, it's stuck in a thought process of, right, I'm good at this thing. I don't enjoy it, but I'm good at it, and the potential for me to, I don't know, create money.
Mm.
And again, a lot of people equal money to happiness, and I
No.
think that is a big mistake.
Well, it's that's fundamental of the matrix, isn't it?
Yeah,
You will be happy when you earn this salary. It's like no, not how it
but
works.
like so many people in life work a 9 till 5, and then always look forward to the exact same holiday that they go on every year for the
Mm.
exact same amount of days, you
Mm.
know, and then it's back to 9 till 5, not enjoying life, but making money, but not enjoying life.
Yeah. No, and I think the potential to have a better life is in every opportunity.
Yeah,
That's one thing I'd like people to take away is yeah, you with the power of literally your own mind, your own thoughts. Because really, I don't think for us, like nothing big in our life externally has changed at all.
no,
We're still doing very similar things that we were doing 2 years ago,
yeah,
but it's how we're doing it, our approach towards it, our thoughts about ourselves and the world and everything.
yeah,
That is the biggest thing. And then, really, I think with the right mindset, with the right thought process, once you've freed your mind, you're out of that matrix state, then your life can be spectacular no matter what you're doing.
yeah.
You know,
Right, yeah.
and on that bombshell, I'm quite happy to leave it there if you are. I think that was good.
Yeah, yeah. I'm happy with that.
Yeah, people, if you did, what we said resonated, then I think give it some thought. And leave a comment or something, or get in touch with me or Oscar, and just like we can maybe discuss kind of some points that are made in the comments if anyone has any thoughts. I'm up for doing that in the next episode. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed. I hope what we said resonated and you felt like we had some value to give. And yeah, thanks for joining me, Oscar, today.
No worries.
Cool.
Peace.
Well, thank you, everyone. We will see you soon.